Hi, ma'am. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to interview you about ICF and various other topics. Thank you very
You're,
much.
you're welcome, Nizam. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Hi, friends. Let me introduce you to one of my mentors, Lenny Matthews. I have undergone um, uh, a rigorous training of ICF ACC 6 days coaching session from her training session. Oh my God, she's full of passion, energy, passion and compassion. She's a combination of both, I should say. So Lenny ma'am is a leadership facilitator, mentor, and executive coach. Her 30 years of corporate experience includes being a business unit head, a hospitality management consultant, a leadership mentor, facilitator, and corporate coach. Her engagement with social initiatives of change and community work lends itself to a depth of understanding people and empower transformation in organizations. She has a width of global executive certifications from Harvard Business School, IIM Bangalore, Ken Blanchard International, etc. She is a leadership competence assessor certified in MBTI, integrative Enneagram, and other profile tools. Lenny ma'am, a PCC coach certified through ICA Australia, now conducts Empowers ICF accredited coach certification training towards ACC and PCC certifications in Bangalore. As Empowers lead mentor coach, Lenny ma'am, over the last 22 years, has mentored and coached executives from Fortune 500 companies and others like IBM, Hewlett Packard, Airbus, KPMG, Tesco, Alcatel-Lucent, Siemens, ICICI Bank, Continental, Automotives, WS Atkins, Syngin, Biocon, Sony India Software Center, Moog Controls, Prestige Group, Nitesh Estates, Textron, Infosys, Endeavor Software, RSP, Architecture, etc. Is the list enough, ma'am?
My
Anything
God, I
special?
think we'll be boring all your audience by
Oh my
this
God.
huge interview.
I'm like, did you spare any companies? I'm just, I knew only as my mentor, but it's good to go through like, oh my God, did ma'am spare any? Like 50,000 executives got coached by ma'am, like 70 organizations. And she's also a winner of the Coaching Leadership Award 2015, awarded by World Coaching Congress. Oh my God. Like here is my mentor, friends, like I should say, highly compassionate soul. Thank you, ma'am, once again. It's
You're welcome.
I feel very happy to have you here. So let's get started, ma'am.
Sure.
Very basic question. Like people have like various certifying bodies. So what is ICF, ma'am?
Well, in India, coaching was not a very common thing. When one looked at coaching, one would look at coaching as, from the perspective of tuitions, like you would hear Agalwar coaching or maybe sports coaching. But in everyday life or in executive coaching, that was something that we really never did very well. We were not familiar with it. So, but in the Western world, executive coaching is something that everybody's familiar with.
Hmm.
So, ICF is a body that has been there for 25 years now, and it has been running these training programs which globally certify coaches for their competencies.
Hmm.
So, when India started becoming a global shall I say, country, where we were looking at so many international organizations setting up base in India and also emerging markets being a focus for the world. the whole need of developing leaders became very critical.
Hmm.
So in the old days, they used to hire executive coaches from abroad and for senior leadership coaching. But now the numbers became so high, and it's always good to have somebody in India who's a coach for Indians, because you speak the same language. There's a cultural connect and all of those things, right? So the need for coaching became very large, and that's when ICF came into India and started having these coaching training certifications. So ICF primarily is a global, it's a non-profit body, but its vision is really to use coaching as a methodology and an approach to life for transformation in a thriving society, so that you get to where you need to go. It's a very human process and a very energizing one. If I have to put that into simple layman language that India will probably connect with, I would say, in a way, we're trying to raise the level of consciousness of the human being. That's what coaching really is about. So ICF is an international body that ensures the competence that you require is sharpened and made rigorous so that you get it right, because it's actually a tall order that we're trying to do. But it's an endeavor, and it's a journey that, however much a master coach you may be yourself, you were always a work in progress, right? Till the day you die, you are still learning about human beings, about yourself. So the coaching is really a journey. So ICF is the international American body that actually conducts these programs and ensures that no matter what kind of a coach you are, whether it's a life coach or an executive coach or whatever field you want to use it in, that's fine. But getting it right, because it's a beautiful process and it's a transformative one. So ICF now has 6 organizations actually under its wing from this year.
Oh, okay.
They're taking it very seriously, and I think also in India we have now spawned out lots of coaches, and coaching has become something that is sought after in terms of even changing cultures of organizations. So, and of course, at a life level, it is so useful in our pandemic right now. There are so many people who are just looking for coaches to help them, just move forward in their lives so that they get what they want. So ICF is a non-profit, but it has various organizations that focuses on international training, that focuses on supporting coaches, that gives you forums and platforms to promote you, that keeps there is an ICF membership. If you join that, and we also have a local chapter and an international chapter, they keep promoting you. They promote you on their websites. They promote you through social media. They give you access to master coaches in the world, who are masters in different fields. And and of course, you have an entire coaching community. So whether it's for social initiatives or for corporates or for individuals, it gives you that platform, basically. So that's what ICF is about.
Thank you, ma'am. That was a very informative thing. All I um, want to make sure is a lot of people are confused, ma'am. Like, what is this ICF? What are the various levels and all that? That's the purpose for this interview. And what are different levels in ICF?
So the basic foundation level is what we call ACC, which is Associate Certified Coach,
Okay.
which gives you the foundation for becoming a strong coach, with focuses on all the different competencies that are required in coaching. Then the second level, which is a slightly senior level, is called the PCC, which is the Professional Coach Certification.
Okay.
Now, the professional coach certification is, it goes deeper in terms of, the depth of coaching and the width of coaching and the rigor of coaching. Now, as you're familiar, Nizam, since you've done the ACC course as well, it's like when you become a pilot, after you've learned how to train, the training of becoming a pilot, They only give you your certification after you've completed practicing a certain number of hours of flying,
Yes.
right? And the reason for that is that it is not a prescriptive process, right? So it's not like maths, which you say 1 + 1 = 2 and it's done,
Yes.
right? There's no formula in that sense, right? Because you're dealing with human beings and each one is so different from each other, right? Their contexts are different, their backgrounds are different, how they respond to life is different. They're completely different, right? So unless the coach actually goes through the different kinds of people, different number of hours, a larger number of hours of coaching practice, you don't get that experience of how to actually coach people and all kinds of people, right? So it's basically that practice. So in ACC, you're required to do the training program and then look at 100 hours of coaching practice, which is the minimum. In PCC, it's much deeper and it's a longer process of 125 hours of training with 500 hours of coaching practice.
Okay.
Then only you get your certification. Then, of course, you have the master coach, which doesn't require really much of training because you've already been trained, but it's more experience. So you're looking at 2,000, 2,500 hours of coaching practice. Then you will be looked at for the certification.
Okay.
So it's primarily your depth of the ability to coach someone well, no matter what the background, and your experience of dealing with the coaching process and with whoever is sitting in front of you. So
Okay.
those are the 3 levels that are there for at ICF.
Okay. So, ma'am, is it mandatory that one should go in a sequential way, like first ACC, then PCC and MCC, or if someone has a lot of coaching experience, say, can they directly go for PCC or MCC?
So they can directly go for PCC, right? But for MCC, you have to first become a PCC, then only you can go for MCC.
Okay.
And PCC has the foundation part already in it.
Okay. Okay.
So it covers the foundation. So typically the only difference is that in ACC you finish 60 hours of coach training and then you finish 100 hours of coaching practice and then you get the certification. But in PCC you finish 125 hours of coach training and then finish 500 hours of coaching practice and then you get the certification. Now, so a lot of times what people do is they do the PCC training, then they finish first 100 hours, apply for the ACC, get the ACC, and then continue with completing the rest of the 400 hours. And when that happens, they get the PCC.
Okay. Okay.
But I always recommend that everybody does the PCC because when you start practicing coaching, if you have a deeper level of training, then your practice will anchor that deeper level of training.
Awesome. Very nice advice.
So it's a good idea to do that. You can get your ACC still, but do the PCC so that you get, even at ACC level, you're actually a PCC level coach. That's what I normally recommend everyone. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, ma'am. That's a good idea. And ma'am, what is the difference between coaching and a therapy? This is like, oh my God, frequently asked question. Whom should I go to, coach and therapist? And there is a lot of confusion, but if you could throw some light around it, it would be.
Sure. Therapy primarily deals with emotional challenges that a person wants to get fixed. There's some emotional challenge that they want to get fixed. And also in therapy, the therapist goes to the past of the client to figure out what is happening with him or her, and then does an investigation, brings them to the present, and then deals with whatever is required, whether it is medical intervention, clinical intervention, or just counseling. In coaching, we don't deal exclusively with emotions. We deal with the whole person of the client, right? The mind, the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual, all aspects, and the holistic context of the client, which means that all different aspects of the client. So he or she may bring to the table a particular concern or a particular goal, but we look at that goal from the context of his whole life.
Hmm.
right? So it is not focused on just one aspect. We do not look at any client if they really require therapy where medical and clinical interventions are required. We are not equipped to deal with that.
Hmm.
So we will not, if we find that a person requires very strong intervention in terms of therapy, it is an ethic that we do not take on that person, and we refer him preferably to a coach, a counselor, or request him or her to definitely go and see a counselor. And we do not, in coaching, we do not investigate the past. We
Okay.
only look at what is happening with the client's present.
Hmm.
Even if it's something that's happened in the past, we don't look at investigating what's happened in the past. We look at what is the impact of that in his or her present context, and therefore what is the consequence of the impact going to be in the future, right? And getting that shifted from present to future rather than investigating from past to present to future is what therapy does.
Okay.
So that's the difference.
But ma'am, here, see, there is a relationship coach, there is an executive coach, there is a life coach. When coaching a person, even like in the corporate level, let's say, executive coaching also, people do come up with certain emotional issues as well. Maybe
Right.
let's say some employee is undergoing coaching with you, and he or she has issues with the boss. So emotions part do come in between the sessions. So it is the coach not supposed to touch the emotional part at all?
No, the coach will,
Mhm.
but the coach will only look at addressing those emotions to the extent that coaching can address it.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is, for example, to give you an example,
Hmm.
if the person, you can see when a client comes to the coaching table,
Mhm.
uh, as a coach, you have a sensing of what is happening the here and now with the client, right? If he is emotionally so distraught that he's going all over the place, there is a possibility he needs a therapist and not a coach, right?
Okay.
That's one. So you may want to figure out what is happening and then take a call
Mhm.
about whether you should coach him or whether you should send him to a therapist. Now, the example that you gave, let's say a person is unhappy with his boss, or the relationship with the boss
Yes.
is not well, and obviously there's some anger or whatever it is that the person is
Mhm.
going through. Now, that is something which very likely a coach will be able to address,
Mhm.
unless he figures out that in the coaching conversation, even when the client has arrived at a solution about how to handle the boss or whatever he's brought to the table, whatever the actual concern is,
Mhm.
and he takes away some solutions from that coaching conversation, and he's supposed to then go and apply that. That's why the client comes to you, right?
Mhm.
But if the person goes back and repeatedly tries to apply the solution, and for some, or is not able to apply the solution at all, right? And it's not working, and it continuously happens that he's just not able to do that, then you have to question and see, is it more than just a coaching situation here?
Okay.
There
Okay.
is a possibility that there could be something which is required to be addressed by a therapist.
Hmm.
Right, so these are all the indications that will give you an idea that the person needs a therapist and you cannot deal with it as a coach. Having said that, as you already know, Nizam, even at the ACC level, we actually train coaches even in some aspects of psychology and therapy, right? But only to the extent that we can deal with it as a coach, not as a therapist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Ma'am, can a person can have a coach and therapist simultaneously?
You can, but it's preferable to complete the therapy first and then come to the coach. Simply because if the person, is not able to work with the therapist well, then what happens is that it's going to impact the outcome of the coaching. I mean, they may have a great coaching conversation, but if the client is not able to actually apply the takeaways, then it becomes an issue, right? Why would you want to unnecessarily waste the client's time and in energy and hopes, asking them to come to a coach? So unless you're sure that the counseling and therapy is working and there's proof of that, I would say keep away. But if you feel that it is working, you can. But my advice is let the person complete the therapy and then come for coaching.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. And ma'am, are there any advantages of being ICF certified?
Yes. The advantages, the first advantage I would say is that there is a very high level of rigor that a coach is put through when you go through the training. As I said, 60 hours and 60 hours of training and 100 hours of coach practice for ACC, 125 hours training and 500 hours of coaching practice for PCC. And there are assessments not only at the training level, but even at the ICF global level, written as well as assessments, demonstrative assessments that are done. So there's a big rigor. So ICF wants to ensure that you've got the understanding and the process right. Because as I was saying, it's a tall order that we're actually trying to do, right? If you're trying to raise the level of consciousness of a human being,
Yes.
getting to his highest level of being, it's a bit ambitious, right?
Yes.
But that's the aspiration. So the certification gives you that rigor. Right, and also now that it's established for the last 25 years, globally people have experienced the significance and the competence of ICF certified coaches. So and also especially in places like India where coaching has not been that popular or not known about, so people are not also familiar or aware what exactly is coaching. So how do they judge a coach?
Yes.
Right? If they want to hire you as a coach, how do they judge, are you good or not good, right? So one of the ways that they are now banking on is looking at ICF certified coach. So it gives you that global recognition and comfort to the decision makers that, okay, you've got the ICF certification, so you cannot not be a bad coach because they won't have given you the certification unless you pass their assessments and all of that. So that's the advantage, and it's a globally accepted, it's the largest globally accepted coach certification body in the world.
Okay. Ma'am, a while ago we discussed the difference between therapy and coaching. Now I've seen a lot of therapists adding ICF coach certification to their credentials. So what could be the reason? Like psychologists, clinical psychologists, I've seen a lot of people are also ICF certified, that to ACC at PCC level. So what's the reason? Why does a therapist need coaching certification?
Well, I wouldn't say the therapist needs coaching certification for therapy. Obviously not,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
He needs therapy certification for
Yes.
that. But I think in coaching, the scope of making a difference to humanity is larger because it focuses on the holistic person of a coach, right? Holistic person of the client. So what happens is that a person, only when he has emotional challenges does he go to a therapist. But a person who has not terribly, or even if he thinks even if it's emotional by nature, but it's not only emotional. It could be, anything else. It could be achieving his aspirations. It could be any other, whether it's relationships or whether it is himself or whether it is, anything at all, right? A coach addresses all those things. So the scope of coaching is much wider and larger, basically. So I think that for therapists, they probably feel that their scope of making a difference becomes larger when they're looking at coaching.
Okay. Let's move a bit to corporate level, ma'am.
Sure.
Uh, a manager who undergoes any of this ACC, PCC coaching levels, and a manager who doesn't have any coaching experience, because you train a lot of managers, and I know that you come from that background. So have you found any difference, manager who is a certified coach and a manager who is not certified as a coach? Is there any difference in the administration or communication or dealing with colleagues, anything like?
Absolutely. In fact, today coaching is established as a leadership competence requirement.
Hmm.
If you probably are familiar, Nizam, in the past, there used to be white papers written about this whole aspect of employee engagement, right? How to engage employees, how to engage employees. And I always used to laugh about it because the assumption is that it's the organization is the one who's motivating the client or the employee, right? I mean, the employee is not working in an organization because the organization wants him to work for them. The employee is working in an organization because he or she wants to work in the organization, right? So I would say that the number one benefit for a manager to work with coaching is employee engagement, right? First and foremost. So it is all about focusing on your teams and focusing on your subordinates, focusing on the other rather than yourself, right? And the classical leadership quality is about focusing on people, not on processes and systems and controls. It goes away from the prescriptive control mechanism, right? And focuses on people and building relationships and engaging with their motivations and inspiring them, right? So there's a very clear shift. And in today's day, especially in today's VUCA world, if you try telling all your team members and your subordinates, this is what you have to do all the time and be prescriptive, you're ensuring that they're going to fail at some point, right? Because their reality, sometimes you may be a manager sitting in a completely different country where your team is sitting in a different country, right? So if you don't get this piece right, the the the, the probability of you failing in this VUCA world is extremely high. So it's now become actually a leadership competence, and that's basically the critical difference. Not being prescriptive, but being engaging and getting the client or the employee or the team member who's with you to work with their realities and not with yours. That's the shift.
So that's the major difference also.
Yes.
And ma'am, a life coach should not give any advice to the client. So could you please explain about it?
Sure.
Why?
Yeah. So that's the classical difference between a mentor or a trainer and a coach.
Mhm.
A mentor or a trainer or even a consultant comes from his experience, his or her wisdom, and all of that,
Mhm.
right? Where you're giving advice to the other person. Whereas a coach, the philosophy of coaching is that the client has the innate wisdom, even though he or she may think that he or she does not. They have the innate wisdom to arrive at their own solutions.
Mhm.
Now, the whole aspect about this is, and especially again in this VUCA world, if you have to look at it, right? Whether it's a corporate world or just everyday life, right? The coach is not living your life, you're living your life,
Yes.
right? And every human being is very different. So even as a coach, even if I'm a senior person or whoever, my perspective on something and the client's perspective on something may be completely even opposite. So how can I give him advice that is going to be appropriate for him? It has to be something that comes from the client, right? So coaching focuses primarily on uncovering all the client is not being able to see. So for example, very often a client in life coaching will come and say, this is my problem. And they will come to a coach when everything else has failed,
Okay.
right? So the reason why that happens very often is because they perceive the problem in a particular position where it is not. So in coaching, we help them see where is the problem actually lying. The moment that reframe happens, then obviously the solutions are going to be new ones that comes to his mind.
Yes.
So the coach actually helps the client reframe, and therefore the client figures out the solutions and is able to move forward, right? So in life coaching, it's uh, uh, it's again the holistic focus on the person and his context of life. It's not the storyboard of what his problem is, but what is the context of what he's brought to the table in the context of his life, right? So that's where the coaching and the discovery happens. It's a discovery journey for the client in life coaching.
That's where this makes me feel like life coaching is, for me, it's very spiritual in process, and it's a spiritual in nature, and that's the journey of life is what I feel, ma'am. And ma'am, tell about Empower, and what are the various trainings being offered in your institute.
So there are two kinds of programs we do. One is focused on coaching, of course, as you know. We do the ACC, PCC coach certification. And now in this pandemic, we're doing everything virtually. We
Okay.
have not stopped. We said, let's do it virtually. So in fact, we are starting a new batch in July, mid-July. Uh, we do coach certification programs. We also do executive coaching, but we also do training from the perspective of different aspects of leadership and competence required in today's world, not just the corporate world, but also in life. So we do even things like right from leadership workshops or negotiation skills or just basic communication skills or presentation skills, uh, to actually even simple things like, well, maybe not so simple, but things like emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Right? Things like any aspect where a person is changing, there is a change in their life, how to handle that change, right? Or relationships, if they're dealing with different kinds of relationships and they're having challenges with that, how to deal with that. Or they are we have people. So one is to do them in a group, where we have public programs, and we have programs that we design, custom design for corporations required their as per their requirement. We also are now doing individual coaching and individual mentoring for those that are looking at different stages in life. So the other day I had this person who was looking at getting a promotion in her field, and she had a job offer from a new company uh, in that in the next level. So she called us and said, can you help me sort of walk with me in terms of what I should be ready for in this interview for a promotion.
Okay.
So we do a mentor come coaching process where we give some inputs which are mentoring inputs, but it also requires coaching. So we do a session for about 2 months, over 2 months, where we give her inputs or him inputs, and so we're custom designing interventions, looking at what individuals are looking at, because this is something new that we started the last 2 years, because it's a requirement people are coming up to us with. So yes, so leadership is a program that we do over a period of 8 months, which is blended learning. Part of the learning is training and workshops, and then we follow it through with small group coaching and one-on-one coaching. So whatever you're learning, we make sure you apply it to your life or your business flow. Otherwise, there's no point. How is it making a difference to your life? It has to make a difference to your life, whether it's professional or personal. So that's something that we also do over 6 to 8 months primarily.
And ma'am, this might be little surprising, but hope you might have seen a lot. Even I came across some doctors, dentists, also undergoing coaching training. I was like surprised, like what makes the difference? Then this doctor said, hmm, once they undergo the coach training, the way they started speaking to their patients changed, and it really helped. So what are the fields which coaching is spreading across? Teaching field, now in the medical field. So how do you see this coaching industry prospecting in India?
You know, Nizam, coaching is such a beautiful process. Uh, as I said in the beginning, it's really raising your level of consciousness.
Yes.
You know, so what happens is, A, it helps the person when you become a coach, it helps you to understand what is the true meaning of your life and what is the purpose of your life. Brings a lot of meaning to whatever it is that you're doing in your life, whether you're a teacher, a doctor, a therapist, whatever, a student, a parent, whoever you may be in your life, right? It helps you see the meaning of life and therefore connects you with a very deep level of satisfaction and joy, which is not transient, which is very fulfilling and lives with you, right? The second thing is that when you become a coach, the first person that benefits from learning how to be a coach is yourself.
Yes.
Because then what happens is that you continue to coach yourself forever in your life. No matter what the challenge, you have learned how to coach yourself. And when that happens, that journey of getting to your higher level is a beautiful journey, right? So as an individual, people start really start to feel that transformation. And the joy of that motivates them to be that in everything that they do. Your whole, it's a transformative process. So even how you will, not only how you speak to if you're a doctor, to your patient, but also to your wife and your daughter and your, the person on the road would be completely different, right? So intrinsically, uh, it's a very life enriching process. So people are attracted to it because of that. It's like, people are, when they get attracted to meditation and yoga. In fact, meditation and yoga is one aspect of some things that we talk about and, facilitate people to work with. But because it's so holistic, it's extremely enriching. And in fact, let me share with you, I'm not surprised that doctors are looking at it, simply because there's a lot of research that's happening which say that because it's a transformative process, it is said that things like cancer has been dealt with, life-threatening physical health situations have been reversed. In fact, Harvard has done a huge study on a hospice, where people are basically, a hospice, as you know, is a place where people go for their last days of their life. I mean, they've already been established that, they're on the last leg of life. And they found that there were some people that would come and, talk to these people who were inmates of this hospice. And then they did a study, because they found that the people that there was a group of people, they didn't call themselves coaches or anything. They were just people who wanted to make a difference in other people's life. And they came and they would visit these patients regularly. And the patients that they visited, they found all of them started to regress.
Wow.
So when they made a research and investigation, they realized actually what they were doing was coaching. They didn't know that that was the process. I mean, there was no formal thought behind it, but the process they were using was coaching. So why wouldn't then a doctor start to think about how to work with that, right? It's a life transforming thing. So coaching is extremely powerful, and even if you don't want to become a coach yourself, it is just so powerful to become a coach for yourself. In fact, that's the first takeaway for all the participants that come for our programs when they want to learn to be a coach. The first thing they take away is the transformation they have for themselves, and the insights and the aha moments that they have. So I think it's just a beautiful process for any human being. You don't have to become a coach. Of course, if you want to become a coach, you can. It also offers your profession. But I think the number one reason to do the coach program would be to just coach yourself, so that you don't have to depend on anybody else in terms of dealing with your problems or your goals or aspirations.
So, I heard from Jack Canfield, or I don't remember exactly, but they're telling that coaches have coaches. So,
Yes.
when in requirement, how is your personal experience, ma'am? Would you go for your mentors whenever you need personal?
Yes, definitely. In fact, you must have a mentor.
Mhm.
As I was saying, Nizam, we're all a work in progress till the day we die,
Yes.
right? So, and also, we everybody has an aspiration in their life, and life happens to you also. It's change is a constant, that, as they say, right? So there will always be times when you may be stuck as a coach yourself. I mean, you may be a coach, but for yourself, you may be also carrying things that you don't know you're carrying, right? Whether it's mental baggage or emotional baggage, or you're not being able to see where the problem actually lies, right? Uh, just because you're a coach, that doesn't mean that you're not a human being. I would say you're a coach, you're a human being first, then only you can
Yes.
become a coach, right? So, yeah, so yes, it's very important that you do have someone or a couple of people who are good coaches, and you should go to them when you need to be coached, because there will be times, some of the most difficult times in anybody's life is when there is let's say death in the family, these are some situations where people have a challenge. You may be a fantastic coach for yourself and for others in life, but there are times when you can also be challenged mentally or emotionally or in whatever way. So it's important that you do have, and my experience, I have used a coach for myself a couple of times, and it has definitely helped. It may be, he may not have given me any solutions, but just having somebody to talk to and that sounding board uh, is good enough to help you move on. So it's important. It definitely is important.
Ma'am, if anyone is interested in to pursue their career through this ICF training, so what are the different ways to reach you out?
Well, my website is there. That's empower .com, www.emmpower.com. So that's there. And otherwise, you can just email me at Lenny Mathews, Leni Mathews, Mathews, at empower.com. Empower is with a double M. And I'd be happy to get in touch with you.
Okay, so are the upcoming programs, everything, the schedule is listed there, ma'am, for
Yes,
anyone?
it's listed on the website. And I could also send you a link if you like. If anybody is interested on that link, you could send them the link as well. I can
Sure,
do
sure.
that for you.
And ma'am, these days I see uh, other workshops happening in blend of ICF training. So, but yours is purely about ACC itself. It was extended for 7 days for us, 6+1, seven
Yes.
days. Then, what is the difference, ma'am? Like, there's nothing harm. So everyone has their own style of delivering. Some have this NLP plus coaching programs, but you stick to the pure coaching training that was spread across 6 to 7 days. Any reason for that? And do you see any difference, ma'am?
Yes. So one of the differences that I see is that uh, see when you I mean, all of the coaching training is all good, right?
Yes.
Even if it's NLP or any of the other, it's all good. The only thing is that when the master coach is focusing on a particular style, let's say NLP, then what happens is that the coachee, who's the student who's learning, the participant who's learning, tends to only focus on one approach in coaching.
Hmm.
So if it's NLP, then the tendency is that you're only focusing on NLP style of approach in coaching,
Hmm.
right? So in a way, it can limit the participant in the way he approaches coaching. Coaching classically is about powerful questioning and the creative use of different approaches and processes and tools and techniques, right? Because you are trying to engage the whole being of the coach, emotional, mental, physical, spiritual. You're also looking at neuroscience, you're looking at psychology, you're looking at management, you're looking at many different approaches, right? And that's when you teach the person different approaches, then they're able to address a person from different approaches, right? So you give them a much larger, wider range of tools to work with when you are doing something so significant as transformation, right? So I feel that when you connect it with only NLP or only appreciative inquiry or only transaction analysis or only one, uh, it's good. It will work for sure, but it's a little limited because you're only giving one kind of an approach, right? Whereas in the program that we offer, I make sure we have at least 5 different approaches,
Okay.
so that the coach has different ways in which to address the client in the coaching conversation, right? And as we said, it's a tall order. It's not an easy process, right? So so you have to help the participant and the student learn different techniques, not just limit it to one or two. So that's why I work with the classic 5-pronged approach.
Okay. Right. So, ma'am, that's the reason maybe your training programs are so unique. I never got a chance to share this experience with you. I had been to a journaling therapy workshop in Hyderabad. There is some Jiddu Krishnamurti ashram, so there I was attending. A fellow participant started conversation with me, and he asked me like, where did you undergo your ACC training? I said, Lenny Matthews. He said, yeah, I know her. I said, how do you know? He said, yeah, uh, like in the coaching industry, especially in India, most of us know about Lenny Matthews, ma'am. I said, like in the ashram also, when I was there, it was like I was feeling very happy. Okay, so, ma'am, that's the reason why your training program and the structure and it's pure coaching form that you stick to, and the coaches that you certify have the holistic approach. That's the reason, thanks for creating more and more coaches in India. And I feel very happy, ma'am, to have this opportunity to interview you. And I'm very much sure, friends, you got a good idea on ICF, different levels, and what is the difference between each level, what is the difference between coaching and a therapy, how vast this coaching is. It's not limited now, it is spreading across every field. I feel very happy. And uh, ma'am, like, could you please one last question?
Sure.
to you. Could you please tell about because certain certifying bodies do not approve only online training. There should be a blend of it. So, does ICF also have any restrictions that this ACC PCC training should have a combination of face-to-face and online training, or is it fine one can undergo the entire program of ACC online, ACC or
So
PCC?
when we say online, it's not online as in not live. When we say
Yes.
online, what we mean is virtual.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So virtually, like we're having this interview, it's
Mm-hmm.
live. It's a live interview, right? It's not a recorded one
Recorded
where,
one.
right?
Yes.
So it's important that that face to face, whether it's virtual or physical, there has to be a one-on-one interaction,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
That is a must. So 80% of coaching is what we call synchronous coaching,
Mm-hmm.
which is live, which is like this, right? I could be doing a training program, or you could be having a coaching session right now, right? Uh, and 20% of the 60 hours or the 125 hours for ECC can be asynchronous, which means that it's self-study, where you're either coaching someone and there is a validation to it, or an assignment is given to you, or there's a case study that you have to work on, but it is done on your time,
Okay.
right? So to that extent, yes, it is asynchronous, and it's self-study, so there is no face-to-face situation. But 80% of it has to be face-to-face, or either virtual or physical, right? That is important. It cannot be online where it is in, it's something recorded and then you're working with that.
Okay. Okay. So that's the difference. It is not recorded. It is very much interactive and virtual training. That's the
Yes,
difference.
because it's the kind of subject that we're dealing with, right? It's
Yes.
so deep in terms of human response. You
Yes.
have to work with the response of the here and now,
Yes.
so that's the reason. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thanks for very patiently answering all the questions. And I'm sure anyone who is like watches this interview gets a fair idea about how to go about this journey with the ICF certifications. Thank you very much, ma'am.
You're welcome, Nizam. Wish you all the best, and thank you for making this happen and looking at coaching so holistically and promoting it as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.